Hi, this is Jim Jordan with Crave Vibrant Health, and today I want to go over part 3 of Inside a NES Scan, the mind-body screen. So the mind-body screen deals with emotions. It deals with acute stress. It deals with chronic shock and trauma that has impacted us. It could go back to our early childhood even, and it is a huge part of what makes the NES bioenergetic wellness system as helpful and as successful as it is. This is a part of the scan that made a huge difference in my life when I started using it a little over 4 years ago. And the reason is that I was very sharp as far as environmental toxins and diet, but there was a lot of emotional factors that I had not dealt with, a lot of shocks and traumas and stresses and things that had accumulated. So from the NES bioenergetic perspective, emotions are both energy and information. It's information that can be distressing to you, and it's got an energetic charge. It's got a charge to it. So let's just dive into the NES mind-body screen and see what we got here. So let's do a screen share here, and there we go, share. And here we go. Okay, so we're going through these screens. At the top, we've gone through energy source and energy strength and energy flow. And now we're at the mind-body screen. So this is where we're getting deeper into the sort of the patterns, the emotional, they call them tape loops that are running, that are affecting our life. So anytime there is a shock or trauma that we have, whether it's in childhood, if we, get insulted or reprimanded by our parents for something you don't understand, or a breakup with your first girlfriend, or something shocking that happens in the world that you experience, those can basically, if you don't process it and both feel it and process it and release it, it gets stuck in your bioenergetic field. So these disharmonious states interrupt the flow of energy. It interrupts the flow of information for your organs and systems to work efficiently. So that's why emotional factors affect your biology. That's why fear will affect your heart rate. That's why depression will affect your immune system. That's why anger can affect inflammatory levels in your body. So the reality is that emotions are all part of life. There's nothing wrong with having emotions, but we have to learn how to process them and move them, experience them and move them out of our system. So in the NES system, there's 3 screens within the mind-body screen. There's look within, emotions, and brain performance. So let's start with look within. Look within, the first 4 of these scan items are called mind-body 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these relate to parts of the brain stem, the cerebellum, the cerebral medulla, that are registering actually a particular shock or trauma. So this work was based on the research of a doctor named Riker Hammer, or Reiki Hammer. He's a German oncologist back in the 70s who discovered that he was working with cancer patients conventionally with chemotherapy and radiation and all that. And then he had a trauma in his family. His son died in a tragic accident, and both he and his wife developed cancer. So he thought, this is not a coincidence. I mean, this is the proximate cause of the cancer. So he started asking his patients in this cancer ward if any of them experienced an emotional shock or trauma prior to their cancer diagnosis, and the answer was overwhelmingly yes. And interestingly, the different types of cancer there were different types of shocks or traumas that led to different types of cancers or trouble, let's say, in that system, whether it's the breast, the prostate, lungs, liver, bone marrow. All different types of cancers had different types of shocks and traumas. So he laid this out in some groundbreaking work. So that is the basis of the NES scan mind-body screen. So mind-body number 1, again, in my case, nothing came up purple here for this scan, but I have, in previous scans, I've had purple throughout here. but I just want to go over for instructional purposes. So mind body 1 is called brainstem hologram. The brainstem, of course, is the oldest part of the brain, and it relates to emotional shocks or conflicts around the themes of survival, existence, and family. So this is very powerful, survival, existence, and family. So the way that would show up in the scan, you can see that there are these circles with numbers in them. So the higher the number, a 4 is the highest number on this scale, the more likely the shock or trauma relates to this theme, in this case, nourishment. Although it's not a priority in my case, it's still registering. This is where the information in my scan came up. Nourishment is around food, shock or conflict around food, okay, which I've had some traumas around in my life, I'd say. With severe allergies, and when I was a child I had things. So the bottom line is these are the sub readings that give you an idea of how to work with the information. So brainstem hologram is shock and trauma on themes of nourishment, support, love, family, existence, survival. So, and this is unbelievably accurate. I've had cases where I'll just mention once in a while a case that comes up, a woman who I saw who had brainstem hologram came up the first couple times with her, and she had been in a very abusive relationship with a husband who was literally strangling her, choking her physically. And that came up around the subreading of request, which is throat. Okay, or swallow. I think swallow. It was something she couldn't swallow, and it triggered, and that the subreading was a 4 in that category. So the scan is very accurate, picking up the shock and trauma that's up for you at this time. Now remember too, what the NES scan will do is there are definitely ways to work with these shocks and traumas as they come up. Infoceuticals are what they can help you start to release and unwind this pattern, as would complementary other therapies like emotional freedom technique or NLP or thought therapy, thought field therapy. There's all kinds of different therapies that you can use for that month that you're working on the particular brain hologram that comes up for you. So again, the NES system is not for the faint of heart. It's for people who really, really, truly want to heal, really, truly want to be their best self, really, truly want to get beyond just survival and suppression. So remember, that's a lot of what happens. Why these shocks and traumas get stuck is that we suppress it, and often necessarily so. It could have happened in childhood. You had no way to deal with it. So they're suppressed. But now, as adults, they can come up at the right time. And each time you release one of these, your system, your bioenergetic system, what they call the human body field, which is the bioenergetic field that is literally in communication with every cell of your body, it starts to function better, faster, more efficiently. Organ systems start to work better. Immune system starts to work better. Memory starts to work better. Okay. Second brainstem mind-body hologram is number 2, cerebral medulla hologram. Relates to emotional conflicts around the themes of self-devaluation. So this is pretty much, all these are universal. How many of us devalue ourselves and are critical of ourselves? Well, there is literally, this is universal. So this, again, if it comes up as a priority, in this case, in my case, it was orange. It was the highest of these 4 brain holograms. It's something to work with. And here's the subreadings, and it's themes around self-devaluation. And it's also matches to each of these brain holograms matches to different tissues in the body. You can see that. And those are tissues that could be affected by this shock or trauma that is impairing information flow in the body field. Number 3, cerebellum hologram. Relates to emotional conflicts around the theme of attack on one's integrity. That's another common one. So again, these are the 4 major ones that Reiki Harmer discovered. Attack on one's integrity, being a liar, doing something that was perceived as wrong by society. This happens all the time. Even as a kid, you get caught lying to your mother. Okay, your integrity is like, uh-oh, I'm a bad boy, and punished severely, let's say, or spanked or something. It's like that could be it. And again, here are the sub-readings that were in my case. Heart was the first, is the highest priority. Heart, emotionally broken by another person. So that would be betrayed, let's say, by a partner who was unfaithful or something. That would be an example, or all kinds of themes. So this gets into the juice of the NES scan in terms of health. So our health is not just a result of our diet and our environment. It's a big factor, but it is a big result of our emotional state, our emotional states. Number 4, cerebral cortex hologram. Yes, the part of the brain that is the most recent development in human beings. It relates to themes of territory and separation, my space. Okay, this is my space. Fear of being attacked, danger, fear of attack a lot is something that comes up. Don't interfere with my space. Your space in terms of your property, territorial boundaries, emotional boundaries. All these things come up in cerebral cortex hologram, and these are the tissues that are affected. You can see all that. It's just, so it's unbelievably accurate and deep, and it's a crucial part of healing. The reason why I think I had my crash in my health 6 years ago is I had not dealt with this stuff effectively at all. Probably a little bit, but I had suppressed a lot. So these 4 are the heart of the mind-body screen. Now there's some other items that are graded here too that are very important. ESR is emotional stress release. This is acute stress. If you're just under like really acute, a very stressful situation, this is like equivalent to the infoceutical tied to this is called ESR. It's like rescue remedy from Black Flower Remedies. I use this periodically when I have stressful things going on, or just take it as it's called a feel-good infoceutical. You can take it anytime. And sometimes that comes up because it's necessary, because you have so much acute stress that it helps sort of stabilize the body field and get you more able to heal and recover. Number 6 is Liberator. Liberator is a broad spectrum brain hologram corrector. So it basically is a combination of all 4 of these top 4, MB1 through 4, and it is very powerful. I've taken this multiple times. I'd say maybe 7 or 8 times, 6 or 7 times maybe in the last few years. And Liberator is very powerful. It is basically saying, I want to be liberated from my past. It can help free you from patterns in the past, and it's more broad. It includes the brainstem, the cerebellum, the cerebral medulla, the cerebral cortex, and it's a broader general corrector of shock and trauma. So this comes up, you're in for a big emotional colonic purification, and sometimes this shows up in the NES in the month you're taking the NES infoceuticals, as it could show up as these energies are being processed in your dreams. Sometimes dreams are very vivid. You could sort of relive some things and process it. Sometimes there's physical sensations, like I would get heat in my body, or sometimes a little shaking, and it would move through. So the infoceutical is activating and starting to unwind this emotional tape loop, so you can be free of that pattern that is suppressing your health. It's not just suppressing your physical health, it's suppressing your fulfillment in life. It's suppressing your fullest potential being reached. That's what these emotional shocks and traumas are doing to us. It's holding us back from being the best we can be. Peace is another feel-good infoceutical. It basically helps you relax. This is sort of it does correction of mental confusion and inability to learn. So it helps you sort of calm down and understand and hear what's going on and get more in touch with your true self, which can only be accessed when you're in a peaceful state. So it is I've taken this multiple times as a feel-good infoceutical. And love is a feel-good infoceutical. Feel-good meaning you can take it anytime. That helps you feel connected to life again, to source energy, to the universe, to something beyond your ego and your conditioned mind. It's a beautiful, I had one client that took it that said, I want to thank you. This thing was just made me feel so connected again to myself. And it sometimes comes up as a priority in a scan, actually. And again, it can also be used just as needed or as desired. Chill is it's like Liberator. It's a broad spectrum corrector of shock and trauma, but it is a more gentle. Liberators are more powerful, like, pushing it out. Chill is a more gradual, gentler way to do it. And I have chill on hand all the time when I'm having, it's basically these tape loops of emotional patterns that are chronic, as opposed to ESR, which is more acute stress. This is chronic stress. So chill can be taken as a complement to the main pharmaceutical program, or as a standalone remedy for relaxing. In fact, last night I took it in the middle of the night. I woke up and I had my brain rushing a bit. I took a little chill and just went back to sleep. It took a little while, but it worked. It's way better than taking a drug or something, or cannabis even, from my view. In pharmaceuticals, that is the look within screen. The emotion screen is, it's basically saying which positive and negative emotions are up in the body field right now. And nothing came high for me at all other than blame in the negative. You can see the positive ones: love, compassion, joy, peace, trust. These are all, if they come up as a purple or even orange, it just means that when you click on it, you can read about it. Basically, it basically gets you to focus on having more compassion, starting to cultivate that quality. That's the scan is saying, we want your attention. Your scan is saying, you are saying, okay, it's not the scan is saying, the scan is reading your body field saying, I want you to have more attention on compassion or joy. So for that could be the theme of that program, of that month that you're on the program. The negative ones are, again, it's not a judgment, just saying these negative emotions are up for you now to process. And I have blame was for me. So let's see what that says. Blame is obvious. And I could acknowledge that I've been quite the blaming person in terms of what's going on in the world with some certain groups of people. And it actually was perfect for me. It actually came up, the scan I did about a little over a week ago. And it's like, yeah, you know what? Judging, blame other and self. So it's always other and self. So it just gets me to focus. And I've been doing some work around blame. Actually, interesting, this week, I really took this and said, I'm going to take this to heart and clean up and do a lot of forgiveness work. So the forgiveness work, which I could highly recommend, Radical Forgiveness by a guy named, I think Don Tipping is his name. Radical forgiveness work is fantastic for healing this blaming, which doesn't help anybody, judgment. Those are the emotions. Now, the last subscreen in the mind body is called brain performance. And these are some new, relatively new, like 2 years ago, these were added EIs, which are energetic integrators, which, remember, goes back to the energy flow screen. This relates to the flow of energy that relates to your brain function, your actual brain function. First one is hearing and learning, vision and decisions. This is the function of your brain actually able to do these functions. Sensing and controlling, the sensory system. Thinking and feeling, which is the integration of the mind and the heart. So if these come up as priorities, I've used some of these. These are relatively new. I've used some of these, and some people said this is major change in their brain capacity, their capacity in the topic that has been covered. So I think these are a wonderful addition, and it's more biologically driven. And you can see they will match to different parts of the brain. I'm not going to go into a lot of details. There's a lot more, biochemistry going on, but they do relate to different parts of the brain. Like thinking, feeling does relate to matches to the thalamus and pineal gland. There you go. Pineal gland produces melatonin, so it relates to the sleep-waking cycle. So this is really a wonderful addition to the mind-body screen. Then we have 4 other items that are identified here. And memory imprinter is, of course, memory, but even it's considered to be, see, it's your brain, your whole brain. It is really considered a driver, like brain driver. Like as if we went back to the energy strength screen, these drivers are the energy, the actual energy that organ has, whether it's your heart or your lungs. So in this case, we talk about the brain. What is the energy, the strength of this organ? Does it have the energy it needs? If it comes up purple, it's a little underpowered. So again, there'll be an infoceutical, and there'll be other things you can do to strengthen the energy of the brain, whether it's certain nutrients, fatty acids, herbs to help increase circulation. So there's recommendations that will roll off of this particular scan item. ES3 is an energetic star. So these ESs are energetic stars, which means they are combinations of drivers and integrators. So it's a compound remedy for the infoceutical. It's dealing with a metabolic function more than a specific organ. ES3 is nerve star. It is the nervous system. It is neurotransmitters. It is specifically tied into the impact of heavy metals on your brain, on your nervous system, on your central nervous system. Okay, these last two are fascinating. ES9, energetic star number 9, is audio star processor. So this relates to a shock or trauma received as sound, something that you heard that was shocking or traumatizing to you. It could be the distant past or the recent past. It could be the sound of gunfire or a verbal abuse or an accident, just a crash of something. It could, of course, people that were in combat zones, whether as combatants or civilians, there would be lots of sounds of, artillery going off or gunfire, and verbal abuse. These are the most common ones. I've had this come up a few times, and this will affect, there'll be created a loop, an emotional loop around that sound, which could cause a person to, this is commonly known, people come back with PTSD from combat. If they hear like a car backfire, they'll think it's a gunshot and they'll just duck because they're so traumatized by that sound that sound itself is triggering a very strong emotional reaction. So they're very reactive to sound. And that can be unwound. This infoceutical and other therapies, complementary therapies, can unwind this shock or trauma. Video star processor is obviously the visual part of this, witnessing something that is painful, that is shocking or traumatizing, witnessing an abuse or a crime, or witnessing the effects of war, destruction. And again, I had this come up multiple times, I believe, related to something that happened to me, an accident I had. So remembering witnessing the approach of the thing, in my case, a line drive that hit me in the face, in the mouth. That shock or trauma was rewound, kept playing over and over, and got to be cleared out by using the protocol for video star processor. These last two are related to functions on a pulse electromagnetic field device that the NES system has for practitioners, and there's no infoceutical related. There's frequency therapy that's related to these, though, but we don't need to go into that right now. But today, I really wanted to cover just one screen today. The mind-body screen seems to be so powerful, has such a huge impact, and to me is really the heart of the NES system. It's right smack in the middle too of all these screens, and it is really the heart of the whole system because emotional factors are huge. I remember years ago when I was training on the microscopy, one of my trainers, he said, yeah, there's chemicals, heavy metals, nutritional deficiencies, but he said emotional shocks and traumas are the biggest impact on one's health, and they are the hardest to free up because most people are scared to go into it. So the NES system guides you at the pace that your own intelligence, innate intelligence, wants you to guide you into the shocks and traumas that are ready to be released at that time. It may not happen. You may not have any of these come up for the first few times you do NES, or in my case, it came up right away. The first scan I had, brainstem hologram, I've been through a massive, very, very stressful emotional period for 2 years. And my system was just ready to start clearing it out. So it's excavating, shoveling out all the crap that has been in your mind, the emotional body, and it's time to release it. So that's essentially what the the NES scan does. It helps you see what is up to be cleared. And then as you start to, as more harmonious emotions start to be dominant, as you experience more of these positive emotions and less of these negative, your body field gets more efficient at communication. You have more energy, you sleep better, your immune system's better, your digestion is better. So, we might be taking drugs or herbs or stuff to mitigate some symptoms, which makes sense if we don't get to the root cause, but the root cause could be cleared up with the healing of the emotional shock and trauma and the chronic stress, because sometimes it's just a chronic stress pattern. And there are remedies that address that too in the NES system, like chill or ESR, if it's an acute stress system response. So, anyway, and basically the bottom line is, let me stop sharing here the screen. So this is the NES mind body screen. Thank you for listening to this. This is a big piece of the NES system. And I am just thrilled that whoever is still watching these series of videos is watching. And I want everybody who's interested in NES to pay attention to all these videos, because they all have a place. And the NES system is a journey. It's like a spiritual healing journey. Ultimately, it's more than a physical healing. It's both. So today was the mind body screen, and I hope this was helpful and useful for those who are either doing NES right now with me, doing the scans, or people that are interested in doing NES to start to see what types of things you can address and heal by working with the NES system, which is working with yourself. It's working with your own innate intelligence. That's all it is. There's nothing reading you outside of you, communicating with you and me together. So this is Jim Jordan with Create Vibrant Health, wishing you a great day.